Learn English through story. The Seeds of Hate. In the quaint village of Elder Grove, nestled between sprawling hills and thick woods, lived two families of the Blackwoods and the Greydons. For generations, these families had been neighbors, but over time, a deep-seated animosity grew between them. The origins of their feud were murky, buried under layers of misunderstandings, jealousy, and old grievances. As the years passed, the seeds of hate they had sown took root, spreading their toxic vines throughout the village. The Blackwoods were known for their bountiful farm, rich with crops and livestock. The Greydons, on the other hand, were skilled craftsmen, renowned for their fine furniture and intricate woodwork. Despite their talents, neither family was willing to acknowledge the other's contributions. Their rivalry bred contempt, and every encounter became a contest of pride. One crisp autumn day, the village held its annual harvest festival. It was a time of celebration, where families gathered to showcase their produce and crafts, sharing their hard work with the community. But for the Blackwoods and Greydons, the festival was yet another battleground. As the festival commenced, the Blackwoods set up their booth, displaying an array of vibrant fruits and vegetables. Nearby, the Greydons showcased their latest creations of beautifully carved chairs and tables, glinting in the golden sunlight. The atmosphere was lively, filled with laughter and the scent of baked goods wafting through the air. Yet, beneath the surface, tension simmered. As villagers admired the Blackwoods' produce, whispers circulated about the Greydons' craftsmanship. The families exchanged scornful glances, each feeling slighted by the other's presence. Old Mr. Blackwood, the patriarch of the Blackwood family, was particularly irritable. "Those Greydons think they're better than us, prancing around with their fancy furniture. If only they knew how to grow something worthwhile," he muttered, his voice dripping with disdain. On the other side, Mrs. Greydon, matriarch of the Greydon clan, overheard the comments and retaliated. "They can't even appreciate true craftsmanship. They're just farmers. After all, what do they know about beauty?" As the day wore on, a small incident escalated the rivalry. A group of children playing near the booths accidentally knocked over a basket of apples, sending them rolling toward the Greydons' display. In an instant, the cheerful atmosphere turned sour. Mr. Greydon, furious, blamed the Blackwoods for allowing their children to run wild, while Mrs. Blackwood insisted the Greydons were overreacting. "What kind of parents let their children ruin hard work?" Mr. Greydon shouted. "And what kind of people can't forgive a simple accident?" Mrs. Blackwood snapped back. The argument quickly drew the attention of villagers, and soon, the festival was engulfed in a whirlwind of gossip and accusations. The seeds of hate had sprouted into full-blown animosity, each family reinforcing their resentment for the other. As the weeks passed, the feud deepened. Each family began to find faults in the other's work. The Blackwoods started criticizing the Greydons' furniture, claiming it was subpar and overpriced. The Greydons retaliated by spreading rumors about the quality of the Blackwoods' crops, suggesting they used underhanded methods to enhance their produce. The village, once a tight-knit community, became polarized. Neighbors began to take sides, drawn into the conflict. Friends were torn apart, and gatherings became awkward as people chose to align themselves with either the Blackwoods or the Greydons. Among the villagers was a young woman named Clara, who had grown up in Elder Grove and had always admired the strengths of both families. Clara was friends with Eli, the youngest Blackwood, and Lucy, the youngest Greydon. Despite the animosity between their families, Clara believed in the power of unity and sought to bridge the gap. One evening, Clara invited both families to her home for a potluck dinner. Hoping to ease the tension, she prepared a variety of dishes, including ingredients from both the Blackwood farm and the Grayton workshop's handmade bread. As the families arrived, Clara greeted them with a warm smile. "Thank you all for coming. I thought it might be nice for us to enjoy a meal together," she said, trying to diffuse the air of hostility. The families sat at the table, a palpable tension hanging between them. Clara began the meal by sharing stories from their childhoods and memories of laughter and play before the feud took hold. As the evening progressed, she encouraged each family to share something positive about the other. "I remember how the Graytons helped us fix our barn roof last winter," Mrs. Blackwood finally said, her tone softening. "And the Blackwoods always have the sweetest apples," Mr. Grayton admitted reluctantly. Slowly, the conversation began to shift. Clara noticed the walls of resentment starting to crumble. Yet, just as she thought the evening was heading in a positive direction, Mr. Grayton spoke up again. "But we can't ignore the fact that they started this feud. They've always looked down on us." The room fell silent, and the old wounds reopened. Clara felt her heart sink as she realized that deep-seated emotions were difficult to extinguish. The families resumed their defensive postures, and by the time the dinner ended, the rift was wider than before. Disheartened but determined, Clara decided to take a different approach. She proposed a community project, to rebuild the town's dilapidated playground, which had been neglected for years. She believed that by working together, the families could find common ground and, perhaps, mend their broken relationships. To her surprise, both families reluctantly agreed. The following Saturday, Clara gathered volunteers from the village, including members of both the Blackwood and Grayton families. With shovels, paint, and a shared goal, they began the work of revitalizing the playground. As they toiled side by side, Clara encouraged them to share their stories and memories, to remember the reasons they had once respected each other. It wasn't easy. Old grudges resurfaced, and heated arguments flared up from time to time. But Clara persisted, reminding them of their shared humanity. One afternoon, as they painted swings together, Eli turned to Lucy and said, "You know, I remember when we used to play here as kids. It was the best place in the village." Lucy smiled wistfully. "Yeah, it was. I miss those days." Their conversation sparked a chain reaction. Other villagers began to reminisce about their childhoods, sharing laughter and stories. Slowly, the bitterness that had enveloped the community began to fade, replaced by the warmth of shared memories. As the weeks passed, the playground transformed from a neglected space into a vibrant hub of laughter and joy. The project became a symbol of unity, and Clara's vision of healing slowly began to take root. Yet, just as the families seemed to be making progress, an incident threatened to unravel their hard work. One evening, a storm swept through Elder Grove, causing significant damage to the playground. When Clara and the families arrived the next morning, they found their hard work destroyed. Fury erupted. "This is the Blackwoods' fault. They should have built it stronger," Mr. Grayton shouted. "No, this is on the Graytons. If they had helped more, it wouldn't have happened," Mrs. Blackwood countered. The atmosphere thickened with anger, and it felt as though the seeds of hate had germinated once more. Clara stood in disbelief, her heart aching at the sight of the chaos around her. She realized that the cycle of blame and hatred was not easily broken. Taking a deep breath, Clara stepped forward. This isn't about blame, it's about coming together to rebuild, just like we did before. If we let this destroy us, then the storm will have won. Her words hung in the air, silencing the families momentarily. They looked at one another, uncertainty flashing in their eyes. Slowly, the tension began to ease as Clara's words sunk in. We've made progress, Clara continued, her voice steady. We can't let anger undo our hard work. Let's gather our resources, come up with a plan, and fix this together. Reluctantly, the families nodded. They knew Clara was right. The devastation might have been a setback, but it could also be a turning point if they chose to embrace it as an opportunity for growth. As they worked together to rebuild the playground, the shared labor acted as a balm for their wounds. Gradually, laughter and camaraderie returned. They discovered not only the joy of creating something together but also the realization that they were stronger when united. Days turned into weeks, and by the end of the summer, the playground stood rebuilt and more beautiful than before. The families celebrated their achievement with a grand reopening ceremony, inviting the entire village to join them. As children played and laughter echoed through the air, Clara addressed the crowd. Today, we've not only rebuilt a playground, we've nurtured the seeds of understanding and collaboration. Let this be a reminder that hate can take root in the absence of connection, but love and friendship can grow even in the most difficult circumstances. Eli and Lucy stood side by side, pride swelling in their hearts. The remnants of the feud faded into the background, replaced by a sense of unity that they had all worked hard to cultivate. As the sun set over Elder Grove, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, the villagers celebrated together. They had learned that while the seeds of hate could sprout quickly, the seeds of love, understanding, and loyalty required nurturing, patience, and a willingness to forgive. From that day forward, the Blackwoods and Graydons continued to work together, not just for the sake of the village but for the sake of their children and future generations. The legacy of hate transformed into a legacy of cooperation, a testament to the power of community when faced with adversity. And in Elder Grove, the once volatile rivalry had blossomed into a vibrant friendship, forever reminding the villagers that it is far easier to cultivate the seeds of hate than to uproot them, but the effort to sow love is always worth it. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you enjoyed, then please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.